Hello, my name is Miss Eileen. Welcome to Who Is at Shaler North Hills Library. Tonight, you'll meet Susan B. Anthony. Susan was born February 15, 1820, in Adams, Massachusetts. She was raised as a Quaker and attended the Quaker school. Let's give a warm welcome to Susan B. Anthony.
Hi! I'm so glad to be here. I'm so totally happy. Oh my gosh!
Hey, well, let me ask you. It is said that you learned to read and write when you were only 3 years old. You must have been a bright young gal who loved reading.
I don't know. I mean, I really did love reading, but here's the thing. I really had great parents. I mean, I really did. I had great parents. I had a really loving home, you know. I mean, it was a little strict. Like, we had the whole Quaker thing going on and everything. But, you know, I know that helped me. So I don't know if I was smart or not, but I know that I did the best with what I had, and I really was blessed to have some really smart parents, too.
Well, that's great. Now, is it true that you became a teacher at the age of 15?
I did, because again, like in all Quaker families, like, and hopefully in many all families today, education was really important. And so I thought it was really great that I wanted to pass on my knowledge to others as well. Yeah.
Okay. It is also said you were a courageous school teacher who fought to change the rules. You became friends with Elizabeth Stanton and started a newspaper about fighting for women's rights.
I did, and I hope we can talk more about that later. Lucy and I, we have this paper called The Revolution. Yeah,
and it was first published in 1868.
Right. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I want to ask a couple of true-false questions.
Okay, cool.
You were devoted to being a women's rights activist, true or false?
Yeah, totally true. And I still am. And that's why, like, especially in death, I might not have the sound of what you would think, like, Susan B. Anthony would sound like. But what I really want to show is that it doesn't matter, like, what you sound like or who you are. These are all, like, stereotypes. And so you might think that, like, my tone of voice is a little bit, like, you know, flighty or whatever. But I'm just here to say to you, you can't judge somebody by their voice. You can't judge somebody by their gender. You can't judge somebody by their skin color. Like, we are all human beings.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, another thing, true or false?
Yeah.
You were generous to put up the cash value of your life insurance policy so women could attend the University of Rochester.
Yeah, because education, again, so important. And I didn't acquire a lot of finances in my life, you know, but I knew that life insurance policy is always a good thing. So always think about who might be able to benefit from your life insurance policy.
Huh?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again,
but maybe not necessarily tell them ahead of time, or they might help you on the way.
Okay. So, another true or false?
Yeah.
In 1892, you were registered and voted in an election for the President of the United States, later being arrested, tried, and fined for your actions.
I did. I was totally arrested. And I think that is a badge of honor, you know? I mean, I think about all the other people who were arrested for standing up for against unfair laws. I think of Mahatma Gandhi. I think of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. I think of so many people who were arrested for doing the right thing because those were unfair laws. So yeah, I was totally arrested.
Now, I heard that the fines that you were charged, you never paid those fines.
I never paid them. And if I can skip ahead here, like, I know we'll talk about, like, what happened to me after I died. Like, but let me just tell you, last year, the president, he pardoned me.
Yes.
Well, I just want to say, like, so many people, thank you, have come out and said that I would not appreciate that. And I totally don't appreciate that. So you can keep your pardon because, again, I am proud that I stood up for what was right. I never paid that fine because it was an unfair law.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So another true or false?
Yeah.
Were you friends with Frederick Douglass and circulated anti-slavery petition?
I did. Now, Freddie Douglass, he was also featured on Miss Jan's Kid Activist Program, as was I, and I felt really honored to be featured on that as well, because Frederick Douglass, what a brilliant man. I mean, an accomplished violin player, a wonderful spokesman. Did you know he actually gave the eulogy at my dad's funeral?
Oh.
Yeah, he totally did. Like an amazing statesman. Like Freddie, just amazing. Yeah, and we worked together. We had, which we can get into later if you want, we had a very, like, a contentious relationship because there were a lot of things that we didn't agree on. I made a lot of mistakes, you know, and so we had a lot of fights. We were all just trying to do the best that we could with the information we had at the time, but we fought a lot. But yeah, I mean, I love Freddie. I still see him like all the time. Yeah.
Okay. It is said that you were a fashion warrior fighting for dress reform. It's also said you hated bloomers. What are bloomers? Can you tell our viewers?
Yeah, I am a total fashion warrior, and I found out that, and actually this is kind of funny, but do you remember, of course you remember, because you were here, Miss Kylie was here too. Hi, Miss Kylie.
Hi.
Hi. So, when Harry was on your show, remember Harry? Like, he had a sweatshirt on for a local school district, the Bethel Park Blackhawks. And guess what? Like, I totally have that sweatshirt.
Oh, my.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Oh, my.
Yeah, and I don't remember if Lucille Ball had it on or not, but I know Harry and I were wearing the same sweatshirt. Like, I mean, not the same one, but the same style. Like, we bought it at the same place. Yeah.
Okay. So, it is said that you paved the way for the...
Oh, wait, I didn't finish about the bloomers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tell me about the bloomers.
Okay, so bloomers, back in the early 1800s and, like, even before then, women had to wear the most ridiculous clothes to be, like, proper. And they also, like, physically and also, like, psychologically were made to constrict us, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, there were even doctors who said, like, the human body should not have to be this way. Like, we had to wear these really tight corset things which, like, squished you together, okay? And these bloomers, they were, like, pants that, like, flowed. They were like, pants, but they also flowed and kind of looked like a skirt. And they became somewhat of a symbol of the women's rights thing. But, you know, Lizzie Stanton, she didn't really dig them because she was like, well, people are wearing these, but they're not really understanding why. So she was always like, if you're going to wear some bloomers, you better, like, back it up with also supporting the women's rights thing, which I totally agree with. I understand.
Yeah. Okay. It is said you paved the way for the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which gave women the right to vote.
Well, you know, it was a long, hard struggle, and there were so many of us who were involved. It was just such a hard thing to do because it was tied in so much with slavery, with oh my gosh, like there are so many things that I can't even tell you that embarrass me now, like. Whenever slavery was abolished, and then men got the right to vote, like men of color, okay? But it was just men of color, right? And not women of color.
Right.
And so what Lizzie and I decided to do was we decided to step away from the right to vote movement for men of color because we thought, like, dude, we have to keep at this. We have to keep at this women thing, you know? And I can totally see how that must have been super painful because we ended up, like, siding with some people who were pro-slavery. and that was really like this guy Train. Like I can't remember what his first name was. I mean, he was a wacky guy, and he supported us in our paper revolution that you talked about before. But I do feel bad that we took that money because it was kind of, I mean, it was tainted money. Because this man, he was horrible in that he believed that slavery was a good thing, which I don't know how you could even believe that. But so I can see why that was totally hurtful for Frederick Douglass and so many other people. And at the same time, what really makes me crazy and made Sojourner Truth, right? Okay, Sojourner Truth, really incredible lady. She wrote this beautiful poem called "Ain't I a Woman?" Okay, and you can totally Google that. I know you're into that. And she was like, "I'm a woman, and I'm also a person of color." And she's like, "I deserve the right to vote too, right?" So it was like there was this hierarchy, right? There was the white men, then there was men of color, then all of us women, and especially even lower on that, women of color. So white women and then women of color. I mean, it was just so messed up. And we were all trying to do things all at different times. And I know that I've gotten a lot of criticism over the years for that, and so has our paper, The Revolution. In fact, even I think it was 2 years ago, some people revamped The Revolution.
Oh.
And it was kind of neat because I was reading about it. And the editor said, and they said all this. They called me out on my prejudice right there, on my hanging out with Train and accepting his money. But they were very gracious because they said we were just trying to do some work which wasn't finished, and it's still not finished today. And this woman wrote, and we can learn from the mistakes of our mothers. Like speaking about me as like a mother of the suffrage movement, and the women's rights movement. And she said, because isn't that what we do? Don't we learn from the mistakes of our mothers? So I thought that was really, really cool. I thought that was cool.
Okay. So now, speaking of money, I'm going to hand you here.
Okay.
This. So in your right hand is the dollar. The left hand is the quarter. So in 1979, the dollar coin featuring Susan B. Anthony was the first time a real historical woman appeared on any U.S. currency. These dollars were only minted from 1979 through 1981 when production was halted because the dollars were so easily confused with the quarter.
I know, like that was always the thing, right? Like people hated getting the Susan B. Anthony dollar because it was so much like a quarter. Like, this is the Susan B. Anthony dollar?
No, that's the quarter.
This is the quarter! Like, it's so crazy. Like, I can't even tell.
They're almost the exact same shape.
They're
I don't know
almost
about
the exact same shape. There's like, this one's lighter.
Mm-hmm.
But there's like
the edges.
Supposed to be ridges on this. Like, not ridges like you'd find like on most altcoins except for the penny, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it was so weird. And like people I know get really mad when they go to the post office and say you use the machines.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it used to be like, say you wanted to buy a book of stamps, or oh my gosh, it says like 2 stamps, and all you had was a 20. So you get your change all in Susan B. Anthony dollars. I know, and like everyone would laugh, and it's like, oh my gosh. So this was, this was less than successful, I guess.
Wow.
But then Sacagawea is on the dollar coin now, and that's a different color. Okay, and I know you might be like, I thought it was Sacagawea, but it's not. Like, I found that out from like looking into history. Like,
okay, say it again.
Sacagawea.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like, formerly mispronounced as Sacagawea, Sacagawea has a really much more useful, much more identifiable dollar coin. And who is going on the 20? Kylie, can you tell us?
Isn't it Harriet Tubman?
Harriet Tubman is replacing that interesting person, Andrew Jackson. Yeah, so that is really cool. Yeah.
Yes. So some may say you were a real rebel fighting for women's rights. Well, I don't want to call you a rebel. You were a real activist fighting for women's rights, fighting for anti-slavery, fighting for women's rights to vote, fighting for women's rights for higher education, and fighting for women's rights for dress reform.
Because here was the thing, like, especially with the education, like, girls weren't allowed to learn higher math. And that was when my dad was like, you know what? We're just going to teach you this at home. You know? So, because my dad was really pro women too, to a point. Okay? To a point.
Because of the times, yeah.
Yeah, because of the times. I'm so tired of hearing that because we still hear that today. You know?
Yeah. Okay. Tell me a little bit more about the good old folks.
Okay, so this is complicated, right? The good old folks. My dad and I, and our whole family, like, we were Quaker and everything, okay? But there were people in our family who were totally not abolitionists. Like, they still believed that slavery was a good thing, right? Okay? So there are two different ways that we could have dealt with this family. We could have cut these family people off, okay, totally. And I can understand why people would do that, right? Or we could have still talked to them, and what we did was we argued with them, we fought with them with love, you know, and we called them the good old folks, and we hoped that by still continuing that dialogue, we were able to change some of their minds. And we were able to change some of their minds. But it's a tricky thing, you know, it really is. Like, when does it become, you know, you and I, we can't have these conversations anymore because it's hard. Because there are some things that are just right and there are some things that are just wrong. That's like what I think. Yeah.
So, and what about your complicated dealings with George Francis Train?
Yeah, that's his first name, Georgie Francis. Right. Like, he was this guy, and I still feel weird about it today. And he was very pro women. Okay, his whole thing was there men's rights, nothing more, women's rights, nothing less, and that was actually the motto of our paper, The Revolution. Well, we didn't have any money to like do this newspaper, but it was important, and he funded it for us. And I feel very icky about that. Like, I really do. And it's just weird. But again, like, I hope this new, what is the word? You know, you get to be more than 150 years old and you get a little. This new incarnation of the revolution, I hope that it will right the wrongs that we committed and also finish the good work.
Yeah. Okay. So, you never married. Not a big deal today, but back in the day, most women would get married, have a family, and so forth. So,
which is totally cool. Like, I think, like, I mean, I have to tell you, like, I've known mothers, okay? And I think, like, being a mother, it's got to be, like, the most wonderful job. You get to see a child, like, grow up and be co-creators with that child, you know, and everything, in helping that child be empowered and go on. But it's got to be the hardest job of all. Yeah. One of my favorite, like, contemporary authors, since I'm dead, like, she's alive, Anne Lamott, and she wrote about being a mother, and she said, like, being a mother is like living without skin. Because, like, you know how your skin protects you, you know, but when you're a mom, I mean, so I have all the props for mothers. I feel sad when I hear people say, oh, like somebody will be like, do you work? And they'll be like, oh, no, I'm just a mom. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. You know what I mean? No, you know. So that's
harder than an actual job.
Yeah. I mean, and I have all respect for women who do choose to get married, and I have all respect for women who don't choose to get married. The thing is that it has to be like a choice, you know, and everybody has a right to that choice.
Right. So, can you talk about the time you stood up for men's rights and it backfired.
Yeah, like here's the thing, okay? Like it was really hard because there was a group, like we had this group about voting rights for men of color, okay? And it was mostly us women who were fighting on the thing, you know? And like a lot of the women just wanted to keep it like women only. And I was like, no, like we should have men be allowed to be in this too, okay? So like I was like convincing everybody, you know, and men were allowed. And once it was all established, they like totally voted me out of power and totally like turned it again, so it wasn't going to be about women at all. So it was like, what? You know what I mean? How can you like turn your back? Like, but you know, we all made mistakes. Yeah. Wow.
So tell me a little bit about your uncle.
Oh, my Uncle Josh?
Yeah.
Yeah, my Uncle Josh. Like he was somebody who really convinced me. You know, I was a teacher, and it was at a time whenever, like things were going really bad. Like we didn't have any funding or anything, and my school asked me if I wanted to come back and teach because I'd left to kind of go like on a touring circuit, like not for music or anything, but like speeches, you know. And I was like, well, maybe I should go back and be a teacher. And he was like, no, your job is to set people right about the laws, you know. And I thought that was really cool about Josh. Like he, you know, it would have been totally respectable and safe and wonderful. Although teaching is a really hard job too, especially like in this day and age. Like I can't even imagine that. But teaching's really hard. But I had a different calling.
Okay. Do you think things have gotten better for women?
Okay. So I definitely think there are some wonderful advances that we have made. We have a woman of color vice president.
Yes.
Woo! Okay, we have that going on, which I think is absolutely wonderful. We have women on the Supreme Court. We have women as senators. We have women in all kind of positions. However, women are still more than 50% of the U.S. population, right? Am I right, Kylie?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. But, like, is our representation in any of these professional fields, in any of these sort of, like, powerful positions, does it compare at all? No. Like, it doesn't. And so that is hard. So we still have a long way to go. And I think recently we've had some serious setbacks, you know, but that's kind of the way it goes. And like I know some of your guests have talked about this before. There's a whole theory that like the world swings conservative and swings liberal. And it's conservative and then it's liberal. And it's like a pendulum. You know, we act and react. But there's this whole thing called spiral dynamics. And I kind of believe that more. I think we do swing left and right, but we don't swing either. We're in a spiral and we're going up. We're going up. We're getting there. We're getting there. But we have to hold one another accountable, and we have to remember that love is the key to everything. Love and equity. Equity.
Okay. So, and then on the same question is, what about for people of color?
Things have not improved, and you know, these are, I mean, I don't know, like, I don't want to speak for a person of color, but my gosh, there is still so much hatred. There's still so much hatred. There's still so much ridiculousness. There's still so much hatred because that's what it is, because it's the opposite of love, and it breaks all of our hearts, you know? People of color, people of different, of non, like, what do I want to say? Like non-typical sexuality, people who weren't born in this particular country, you know? I mean, there's just so many areas in which we draw a line. Like, we draw a line and we say, you, us. And we can't do that. We cannot.
So, what do you think about what is going on today in our country?
Well, yeah, I think there's great division, and in a way, it's good because now like people aren't hiding. Like it's awful because people aren't hiding their hatred, but at least we know where to look and how to combat that. Like I think before, it was all like underground and sneaky, and horrible things were happening. But now, you're gonna do something wrong, we're gonna make that right. We have to do that. Yeah, we have to keep fighting the good fight. There's a big difference between a peacemaker and a peacekeeper. Okay, like a peacekeeper just keeps the peace. Like, oh, there's good people on both sides. Everybody's good. Everybody's fine. Right. Let's not fight. But a peacemaker sometimes has to stir and will stir things up. You think about MLK Jr., right? Okay? Martin Luther King Jr., right?
Yes.
He stirred things up. To get to peace. You think about Muhammad Gandhi, right? He stirred things up to get to peace. You think about Jesus of Nazareth. He stirred things up to get to peace.
Yes.
I mean, and so sometimes you have to be the peacemaker, and you have to stir things up sometimes. Yeah.
So then, now tell me, what is next for Susan B. Anthony?
Well, like since I died, like I said, I have been changing like my tone of voice, because like a lot of accents and things are sort of seen as like maybe lower class or lower intellect, that kind of thing. I mean, we hear people sometimes take on a hillbilly drawl when they want to be like, maybe that they're not the smartest. And that's not right at all. That's making fun. That's being stereotypical. That's all these things. And so I've been doing that. I've been doing a lot of stuff with that. I've been working a lot with television, like just in general, working on some different things that don't have anything to do in particular, like with rights. But I don't know if you remember the show. This was like back in the 60s and 70s. It was like a cartoon show put out by the Lutheran Church in America called Davy and Goliath.
I can't remember. I can't recall.
Okay, it was really good. Kylie, did you ever see that?
I have not.
Okay, it's cool. You should totally Google it. So, like, I was really involved in that. It was done by Art Clokey. Did you guys ever hear of Gumby?
Yes.
Yeah, he was the same guy who did Gumby. And he did this great show for the Lutheran Church in America called Davy and Goliath. And it was awesome. It was about this boy named Davy and his dog named Goliath.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, a lot of it dealt with, like, really serious issues way ahead of time. So I did that for a while. Not really related to anything, like, about rights or anything. I worked on SpongeBob SquarePants. That was pretty cool. Sophia the First, like I was a voice actor on that, and I was also like just in a few countries, like not in the incarnation that was most prevalent here. I was one of the labels, so I've been doing that. Other things like in the future, I really kind of want to get into working with more or less like AI, like artificial intelligence, because I want to like make sure that like Siri and Alexa and all those, like these people who aren't like really people but who come into our life, that they are like a lot of fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Susan B. Anthony. I really appreciate.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And what I really want to say is one of the big things that I've been involved with too is voting. So everybody, people worked really hard to get you guys the rights to vote. And so please vote. Like, use your voice. That's how your voice is heard. And I also want to thank you. Like, I heard that like you were gonna put like a more attractive banner on here because like because like I kind of am into fashion, and so I really appreciate that. But then I found out the truth that last time when you washed the banner, because it had like stuff on it, that the decal fell off.
Oh.
So what can you do, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, thank you, Miss Eileen. I really appreciate being on your show. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan
Thank
B.
you.
Anthony. So this
No, it's
is
cool.
Miss Eileen with Who Is at Shaler Northfield Library. Thank you.
Bye.